Hi everyone and welcome to Lockdown Dads. My name's Ian Dinwiddie. I'm the founder of a coaching business called Inspiring Dads, helps stressed dads to balance work and fatherhood. I have two children. I have a daughter who's 10 and a son who's 7.
And I'm James Miller, editor of workingdads.co.uk, author of Dads Don't Babysit, and also father of 2 different children. I usually have a copy of Dads Don't Babysit on the shelf behind me, don't I? But I've got my Christmas tree today. I should have put it
up. There you go. Proof.
Give it a little hug.
Excellent Christmas present. I have a few of them sitting in my study, as I occasionally give out to clients. And if you are listening on the podcast, then yes, James has a new background this week. He has his tree, which is sparkling, multicolored tinsel, multicolored lights. It is a riot of color, so it's worth watching.
This is one of the 4 trees that we mentioned on last week's episodes. There's just 2 of us this week. I could take you for a tour of the Christmas tree. I'm not going to. Yes, just 2 of us this week because it's the end of term. Like all people at this time of year, we have to look back, look forward, do all that, considering the year that's been. What I was about to get an explicit there, but I mean, it's hard to describe this year without using an explicit word, really, isn't it? What a year it's been. Let's say that. How are you this week, Ian, and how has your year been?
There's a topic that will keep us going for the entire episode. This week, pretty good, I think. It was pretty good. Didn't have hockey at the weekend. Got some work done. Did a webinar that went really well for a client, and I guess I've written a few Christmas cards, which is not all of them by any means. I don't send a huge amount, but we've written a few of them, so we're ahead of the game on that. Kids did their Christmas cards early. There just feels like a few things that have happened in advance. I guess the thing that's probably the best thing that's happened this week in some ways has been around sorting something. Well, actually, I can't take credit. My wife has been very well organised. She contacted the local pub down in Somerset and said, look, my father-in-law is self-isolating, he's shielding, and no one can be with him on Christmas Day. Do you think you could deliver like Christmas lunch to him? Any chance? It's only a few hundred meters away. And they came back and said, yes, let's have a conversation about it. So we put his order in. They even emailed me today and said that they would want to kind of collect his plates so that they can deliver it. Instead of in containers, they're going to deliver it on his own plates, ready to go. So my dad can be like, Christmas dinner brought to me. It's like going to the pub, but the pub comes to you. So Rushden Inn in Taunton.
Well, that's
amazingly helpful.
Yes, there you go. Let's just stop there. That sums up the year, doesn't it? In many ways, in that, there's nice people out there, people looking after each other and all that. I saw some stuff this week about community has not actually been strengthened this year. I think there's something to that, or not since the summer. We've sort of gone backwards, but there's still good people out there, trying to do something like us trying to make this podcast for the working,
exactly.
For the lockdown dads. That's what this was all about, I suppose, at the end of the day.
Definitely. So, I mean, for me, that's been a little bit of a highlight for me, James. How about you? How have you been this week? Let's do this week the first, and then maybe we'll talk about the year.
We got the trees last week, right? That didn't really feel terribly Christmassy. But I tell you what, last night we had the Sunday night telly, so Strictly, and then Lyra, whatever her program's called. I always call it Lyra. What is it? His Dark Materials. Is that
oh right, yes, yeah. I didn't get on with Dark Materials, must admit.
CV's really good. It's good Sunday night family viewing, that one. Yeah. And then after Little went to bed, the 3 of us, me, partner, eldest, sat and played cards for 40 minutes, which was nice. And then after the eldest went to bed, we watched the was it Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse fishing program, which I've never actually watched before. We watched the Christmas one, and I was like, oh, hang on, that's Christmas, isn't it? All sitting around, family, no stress, watching things, playing things, just all very relaxed. And actually, the Bob Mortimer, Paul Whitehouse thing was quite interesting because it's 2 men talking about their emotions. There's a really, really sad bit involving Bob Mortimer's history. I don't know if it's much of a spoiler, but there is a sad bit. And I was like, well, that kind of speaks to a lot of what obviously we've been working on all year, really, is this idea that 2 men Just talking.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a whole TV series out of it. I did start thinking, oh, if they could do that, we could do that, right? I mean, I don't do fishing, but I don't know. We could, I played hockey for the school once or something in a friendly. We could do a hockey TV series.
Do a hockey TV series. Famous hockey players. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought, it was, it spoke to what we do here in a way that. Two men talking, and it's it's just nice.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the sort of nice things for the year. I mean, I kind of agree with the sentiment, which is I wouldn't want it to all happen. If COVID could have not happened, that would be better than anything that's happened since and any of the benefits. But a couple of really big benefits for us, I guess, as a family, during the summer was going out for weekly walks and going somewhere new and just exploring and walking together, stretching your legs when the weather was, especially in the spring when the weather was great and we started to be allowed out, and then into the summer, we went and explored a whole range of little areas of sort of the local Kent countryside that we wouldn't previously have done, around Biggin Hill, Charles Darwin's house, all sorts of up and down these little lanes and across fields and footpaths and woods, and it's just really good family time. And also our Saturday night movie night. So no cards. I haven't. I'm not much of a card player myself, but we've been watching Christmas movies. So we had a really good one actually. We had two good ones recently. So who is it? It's Noel. So that is Anna Kendrick as Santa's daughter, and it is from a gender equality thing. It tips it upside down and plays around with sort of norms in terms of who Santa is and the role of women within the Santa story, and it's really good actually. A little bit cheesy, but really good. And then last night, After Christmas, animated. James McElroy, Hugh Laurie, really enjoyed that one as well actually. So that we got to the point where my daughter's actually panicking about Christmas. She said, I'm really worried. I said, what about? I said, I've got too many films on my Christmas list. So we're going to do a Santa Claus 1, 2, 3. I want to watch Polar Express on Christmas Eve. I want to watch that again. Maybe Elf and something else. And she basically made a list of all the Christmas films.
Here's an early tip for you on this episode. Don't bother with It's a Wonderful Life. It's too long for small children, and it's black and white.
Yeah.
that was our film club movie on Friday, and kids were like, that's not even a Christmas movie. I was like, well, it's not exactly a Christmas movie. But to be fair, they're kind of right. I mean, there's only a little bit of Christmas in it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's not one I'm that familiar with. It's kind of one I know about, sort of, rather than anything else. Grinch
you should watch it, because all fathers should watch it, because it will reduce you to a blubbering wreck by the end. I
can't have too much of that. It's too easy for me anyway.
It will kill you. It's amazing. It is good, but it's not really one for kids. It's not that it's unsuitable for children. It's just too long and it's black and white. They've got to be a bit older to get it. But
not as uplifting, yeah. So James, what have you had as some of your highlights? We've had the sort of family time in terms of movies and walks. What have you had in terms of kind of highlights for you, sort of on a personal level, I guess?
It's been a roller coaster, hasn't it? I mean, I wasn't really that keen on the whole roller coaster idea until I hit it in the last few weeks. Like, oh, okay, this is what everyone's been talking about. So, with hindsight, I think we did pretty well for the first 6 months of lockdown. And I think I said last week, that early period, which was really hectic with the homeschooling and stuff, but it kept you on your toes, it kept you occupied. And it actually was quite fun, apart from the, worried you're going to die and whether you're going to be able to actually buy toilet roll and all that. And I mean, there was all that, but, again, with hindsight, maybe it's me, but I'm sort of focusing on the more positive aspect of that element. It's been a lot harder at this end of things. I think that's because we had a bit of freedom and then had it sort of taken away, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, films have been good actually. I mean, this last lockdown, we started Friday Night Film Club, Classic Film Club, which has now segued into Friday Night Christmas Film Club, but Christmas Film Club not so good because, I don't know, we know all the good ones already.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was nice because, through the last lockdown in November, it's like the kids could not go out and see their friends, which is rubbish for them, but at least you knew you were all going to be in on a Friday night.
Yeah.
This time next year, my daughter will be coming up 14. How often will she want to sit in on a Friday night with the film is? Hopefully once in a while, but I can see that's going to change. I think that's been a lot of people sort of appreciated that family time that we were forced to have and that we won't ever get again. And as you say, I mean, the circumstances could have been better, to say the least. But yeah, it's been good. And this has been an interesting little project that we've. It's the project that we wanted to kill all along, really, isn't it? Because we don't want to be in lockdown.
We thought one series that'll be fine. For 14.
Talking about doing 6 weeks or something, and now here we are. We're on 26 or something. And
27, I think it is today. This is 27, and we are plotting as we're speaking. We are booking in. We booked 6. I think we've got 6 guests lined up already for the next season, and more being invited as we speak. Well, not quite as we speak. Obviously, that would be a bit rude if we were typing out emails right now. But yeah. So we're doing a season 3, which I thought that season. Well, I think I said that we should change lockdown. We should change the name of the show from Lockdown to something else, like Leading Dads or something. And I think you rightly said, no, I think lockdown will still be a thing. Maybe that's the hardest thing about all of this year, is that that initial excitement was great and almost enforced changes in behavior and keeping things simple, and now it's just kind of dragging on a little bit. And there is a vaccine starting to be rolled out, but it's going to take a while until everything's sort of settled and we move into something a little bit more positive and exciting and kind of go out and do things. And I'm still waiting for we've got lunch booked between Christmas and New Year. I'm waiting for that to get cancelled as we go back into tier 3 in London, probably. Got cancelled last time as well. It's my birthday lunch from early November. So, but I think it's hard, and it's one of the things I wrote down about thinking about the year was sort of adapt. A couple of A's. Adapting and accepting were a couple of things that I thought were kind of key things that I'd experienced, and I think might be a general theme is adapting your circumstances and then just accepting what you can and can't influence and being kind to yourself. It was one of the things that came through on quite a few of the tips that we had during this season in particular, where we had we had sort of things around small things. I mean, Michael Ray talked about the moments between the moments and thinking about the small thing. What small things? Nadia talked about what small things can you do to kind of capture and hang on to those things that went really well. So some quite simple things around accepting and adapting and being kind to yourself, but good enough is good enough, as you were saying, James.
Absolutely, it always comes back to good enough is good enough, and also accepting. I think I said, I try to remember if I had this was one of my tips, but you're going to break the law. You've got to accept with these tiers and these rules. I'm not encouraging anybody to break the law, but you had to sort of accept that. For example, we went out for a walk with my mother-in-law at the weekend, outdoors. That's all legal. Were we always exactly 2 meters apart? Yeah. Probably not. We didn't actually touch. There was no hugs or anything like that. But you have to sort of be comfortable, even just walking down the path when there's somebody else coming the other way, you're like, okay, we're not going to be 2 meters apart. And that's a very small one. But there's a sort of, again, just accept that we're all human. Don't beat yourself up when things go wrong. Don't go out for a Kay Burley style birthday party. Don't do that. That'd be terrible. But it's just again, accepting that things can't always be exactly as you want them to be. And I suppose that particularly speaks to Christmas as well, doesn't it? This Christmas is not going to be as any of us would want it to be. But just make the most of it, I suppose is all we can do. And as you say, we've had a lot of guests saying that. It's really interesting. That's become a really strong message, particularly into this period. I mean, I don't know, it feels like in the first series there was much more sort of practical tips, like Noel McDermott's don't drink. Yeah. But very practical, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, don't drink at all, I don't know. That was quite a striking one. I think it caught us. It caught us by surprise. I mean, he was absolutely backed up by the logic and the experience of his work as a psychotherapist. But I think, hard. I think it's difficult. I guess it depends what your tendencies are. If you've got a tendency towards over drinking, it's like anything. If you've got a tendency towards any kind of addictive behaviour, stopping it completely may be the right answer to just sort of solving the challenge. but I think, I've never been. I was about to say I've never been a big drinker. That is a lie. I haven't been since I was grown up. I haven't been known as being a sort of big drinker. I'm very fast at drinking a pint still, though. Am I proud? Yeah, very fast actually. Hockey.
See, if this wasn't just such a ramble chat and actually had some sort of structure, we would have both got ourselves a pint lined up and had a race. I mean, I would have lost because
pint of water. Oh, you do a pint of water. I went to uni with someone who actually trained. He trained with pints of water to get faster at drinking. Ollie Davis, wow. Very good hockey player, but became a very fast drinker through practicing with water. It's all about the technique. Anyway. So yes, Noel had a particularly practical one, I think, about not drinking in lockdown. The other really practical one that stood out for me was Yash Puri, and nappy changing in the dark. And this really, I think this was the one where we could see him. He was doing his hands. If you're watching it on the video, he was explaining how he wanted to change his child's nappy in the dark, because then they wouldn't wake up and wouldn't have to settle. And he'd nailed, I think the morning that we spoke to him, he'd nailed that. And the practice and the sheer joy on his face of saying, I've got this down, I can do this. And it was making such a big difference, because my baby doesn't wake up in the night when I'm trying to change her. So they were a couple of standout, very practical tips. Not everyone's got a baby to practice changing a nappy on, though.
No, I've got that on my list of one of the standout tips as well. Also got some of my own that were quite practical, and I basically let everybody down, didn't I? As you say, there's all these sort of highbrow, sensible ones about look for the moments before the moments, and I did one about make sure you choose the right pants. I mean that was a bit of a low. That was a low moment, really, wasn't it?
There was pants.
Yeah, stand by it. It's a good tip, but buy an Apple Watch and check the pants. They're quite.
I think it's one of the things. I mean, we talked about interesting and informative, and I think we had both interesting and informative within 30 seconds. Interesting that how much you'd gone into the detail of the pants and the mechanics of the pants that you were wearing and why that mattered, versus more sort of kind of big picture things about the importance, as a number of people talked about, the importance of making time for yourself. And that was another thing as a theme that's come through, I think. Adi talked about it, Dan did, and so did Mary, all in this season. The importance, this idea of putting on your oxygen mask first, and being a little bit selfish as to what you need to do in order to be at your best for everyone else. That was a theme.
As I remember it, that was Jessica Chivers that I told about my pants, which again sounds
you did
not a good sentence, but and her tip was to do with taking walks in the rain, as I remember, or one of her tips was to do.
Yeah, she had. Walks in the rain.
I confess I can't remember what yours was that week, but I do remember that it was 3. You had a real good mixture, and I guess that's one of the nice successes of this whole project, if we can call it a success, is that we have had a good mixture of all sorts of different tips, but also just generally the conversations have been light and dark, and we've had an awful lot of different elements thrown into the mix, an awful lot of different guests. We've had an interesting range of guests. We've had one MP, one ex-MP, a couple of comedians, at least a couple of comedians. That was a good one.
Apart from us?
Well, yeah,
4 comedians. Comedians every week.
I told you about the time I did stand up at the Fringe. I'll tell you about that.
Wow.
That's too long a story. But Philip Simon, that was a standout. I remember that one because we did that in the evening, and it was interesting how certainly my brain was just slowed up compared to when we usually record around lunchtime. And then we had to do the infamous retake because we couldn't hear the punchline to Philip's joke. That was a particular hype.
Yeah, IKEA joke and the punchline went. He had to re-record his punchline, which was just kind of classic at the time, kind of peak lockdown Zoom call related. But yeah, I think you're right. We've also had a couple of doctors, Dr. Laura Radcliffe and Dr. Jasmine Kelland came on as well, both working in research related to parenting and dads in particular. And what I found quite interesting when I was looking back through the tips was that they were big on calls to action. So they were big on big picture calls to action, both of them. So Jasmine talked about there's a message for dads, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. So quite a big, much bigger than, be kind to yourself, really about leadership and that side of things. And Laura had something very similar. I mean, she had 3 actually, but dads, be brave, be vocal, be daredevil, don't hide your responsibilities. So that's 2 women working in the same field and very much about chivying, sort of encouraging men to step out of their comfort zone and to be the kind of active, involved fathers that they want to be and to stand up for it. It's quite interesting they both did it.
Yeah, both sort of talking about work as well. Obviously, Jasmine had that terrific story of her. I think it was her partner asking for some sort of leave and getting short shrift. And Laura, I seem to think, brought up the issue of line managers, which is very much one of those that is very rooted. It's all very well talking about the highbrow stuff, and as I say, we've had a good mixture. But line managers is one that comes up in my working dad stuff time and again. It is really the sort of the crux of a lot of this. If you want to entrench the changes that have happened this year in terms of men doing more work from home and spending more time with their families and doing more equal parenting and all that sort of stuff, line managers are key to that. Interesting. I did a case study. Don't think it's on Working Dads yet. It'll be on this week, I think, hopefully, as long as it gets signed off. About a guy in high finance, city guy, went to his line manager and said, I want to take shared parental leave. And the line manager said, brilliant, go for it. And that made a huge difference. And then when he came back and said, and actually after my 6 months of shared parental leave, I think I'd like to do flexible working. The line manager was like, oh, right. And that made it a whole different experience. It's a sort of niche one. It's going to be a big one, but it is a particular, it's a sort of specialist area. But I think that was really interesting that she brought up line managers, because I think they will be key to entrenching what's different going forward. Another guest that I have to mention that stood out for me was that absolute nutter who ran a marathon dressed as a fisherman.
Freddie Bennett.
Freddie Bennett, wasn't it?
Freddie Bennett.
He was. I think he was perhaps the most surprising guest we had. Just to be clear, I'm not picking out favourites, right? Genuinely, we haven't had any duff guests, and that seems surprising to me. But I mean, I genuinely look back over the list and go, well, none of them are bad. That might be because we are amazing as presenters and getting the best out of people.
Sure.
It's probably that. But Freddie Bennett, I don't know. Yeah, there was something. I don't know. He kept surprising me with just stuff, and then sort of off with the story of running the marathon dressed as a fisherman.
A man with so much energy and focus, and well, not so much focus, a lot of energy. Focus changes sometimes. He's amazing. He was also, I think if we look at how long the sessions are, with the exception of my brother, where it was the 2 of us, and it basically just turned into my brother and I talking, and the edit, it was originally 50 minutes that we recorded. I had to edit it down quite hard. Freddie was the longest because we went back and we ran out of time and had to go back, and we then re-recorded. We recorded an extra 2 or 3 minutes at the end to tie it all together, because he was telling such amazing stories about adventurous running and running in his garden, and what it was like with his wife was an A&E doctor, I think. And so so there was quite a lot of pressure in the family, and that experience of COVID was different for him as well.
Yeah, I think that was, not many men have experienced running a marathon, never mind running a marathon in a stupid outfit. But I think his experience was, the relevant part of that experience. Well, so you can learn things about focus and what's his thing? Start from zero.
Starting from zero, yeah.
From his story of running a marathon. But the fact that I think, again, what struck me with him was the, as you say, his partner was in the NHS, and he'd suddenly had to learn exactly what's involved in parenting, if you like. It's not that he hadn't been around and been involved from the off, but I think a lot of men I've spoken to for working dads have said this, that they now understand the mental load better. I mean, that's something we go on about quite a bit. But this experience this year of being at home and being around, even if they thought they were equal parents before, they now understand that there's so much more to think about than it's not just getting the child to, Girl Guides or whatever. It's figuring out what they're going to eat so they can get there on time, how bedtime's going to work with the other child when they get back, and have they done their homework for the next day, and what you're going to eat, and what are they then, what are they going to have to do for the next week's class, and all this sort of stuff. And I think a lot of men have been like Freddie in that regard, and that they've had their eyes open to some extent, and that's undoubtedly a good thing.
Yeah, I think it is. But I think it's also the elephant in the room almost, in terms of how men were. There's great research sort of early in first lockdown talking about the amount of extra work that men were doing. So in May, the Guardian reported Office of National Statistics saying that men were doing 58% more childcare. So were spending 58% more time on average at childcare than they previously had, even though the gap was different. However, the Guardian reported Office of National Statistics, same survey, same self-reporting information from 9th of December. And the title is called "Lockdown Fueled Novelty of Domestic Chores Wane for Men." And so this is, I think it's really interesting. And we know that men want to do more. I mean, you found that from the Working Dads survey in terms of the proportions of men. I think it's the 80%, isn't it? 80% of men wanted to, were more likely to request flex or remote working. But what the Office of National Statistics has found from April to May to September is that the gap, women were doing 44% more unpaid household work in March, April, and that gap's actually increased to 64% more than men are. So there are some suggestions that things are kind of going back to how they were, which I really, really hope isn't a long-term trend. And actually there are enough men who have seen the benefits will start to normalize it for everyone else. And maybe some of these trends are to do with actually dynamics of going back into the workplace and who's going back into the workplace, and individual family circumstances are so different for people.
Yeah, I think that's a good opportunity to throw it forward into 2021 when, as you say, we will be back for Series 3, possibly surely the last series of Lockdown Dads. If you want us to continue, then obviously get in touch and beg us to carry on past that. But we'll see where we're at. Who knows? I would like to say where we'll become Easter. But one of the things is, I think the next period in which we'll be recording Series 3 right through to Easter will be key for people like us. Ooh, that's always a loaded
experts.
Be out there making the case, because as you say, there will be a temptation to go back to pre-pandemic normal. That is an obvious sort of comfort blanket, is to go, well, things were better before the pandemic, let's just go back to that. And we know, as you say, that there's a lot of men who have gained things from this experience. I mean, we've all lost a lot this year, but there have been some gains. And we need to be out there making the case for a new normal. And it is going to be a case that we're going to have to make, because as I say, there's going to be this comfort blanket of, the olden times or whatever we're calling them. We've got to say, well, no, actually, we can have better and it won't be difficult. I think that's the thing. We've got to sell it as you can have the good stuff, but without it being, we're not asking you to have more upheaval, because people are going to be fed up with upheaval after a year of this. To say that it can be easy. Why don't you pay me and or Ian to come into your company, give us quite a lot of money, and we will come in. Actually, don't even give us that much money. We will come in and explain why it doesn't have to be hard and why it matters and how it'll improve your business. And the economy is going to hell in a handcart. This can improve your business. So I think we really need to be out there in the next period making the case for the lockdown dads to get them to move on.
Because there is all that positivity, that there is a lot of positivity, and you don't want people and that having the confidence and men just saying, actually, I want more of this. I think you're absolutely right. But also, like you say, tying it into the business case and saying these are the reasons why equality in the workplace for dads has an impact on equality for everyone. Equality certainly in a gender perspective, and stop flex and remote working being seen as a kind of a perk for mums, which is what traditionally that's how it's been perceived. And your example of the man in finance and how shared parental leave was kind of, yes, that's absolutely fine, but when you start talking about flexible working, the conversation, well, we kind of don't really do that. Almost a chunk of 6 months is not in the business. That's almost 6 months where that can be ring fenced. But if it's a day-to-day a day-to-day process, and perhaps it's more challenging for line managers, more challenging for HR, more challenging for teams in terms of how those groups work together to get the right outcomes for everyone.
Yeah, so there's something to look forward to in series 3. We might be a bit more campaigning-y, perhaps, talking about how to make that case. I don't know. I mean, who knows how things will pan out? I've got a horrible feeling we're going to be back in lockdown in the course of Lockdown Dad Series 3, unfortunately, which would at least would round it out nicely that each series involves an actual lockdown. So there is that to say for it, I suppose. But who knows? We will see. But I think what we can say is that we will be back in January with another series of this. And yeah, we will wait and see what we're talking about in it. Here's my end of year tip. Okay. Go and watch that Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse program on the BBC iPlayer, and Christmas drink this year: cherry vodka and tonic. There you go. That's my tip.
Wow, cherry vodka and tonic. I can hardly imagine how disgusting that tastes.
No. It's just like a soft drink. It's just like like
a nice Vimto.
Yeah.
Wow. So my tip is don't overindulge when you're drinking at Christmas. No. Although my drinks cupboard, I would say it's a cabinet, it's not, it's a cupboard. Cupboard in the office is overfilling with lots of cider that have been ordered in from Somerset. When I went down my local business about 3 miles away, so they deliver, but you have to buy quite a lot to make it worthwhile on the delivery.
Drinks cabinet in the office.
It's drinks cupboard.
That sounds dangerous. Drinks cupboard in the office. That doesn't sound right at all. But there you go. One of the joys of 2020 when you're working from home, you can have a drinks cabinet in your office if you want. Can't do that when you have to go into the office, can you?
It's true. 20. Not without people raising an eyebrow. A lot of eyebrows. Fantastic. James, it's been great to record this. I think this is episode number 27 of Lockdown Dads. I've been Ian Dinwiddie, and this has been a great experience to talk to a whole range of really interesting and informative guests over the course of this year. And as James said earlier, we will be back next in the new year, 2021, for a brand new year, hopefully the last season of Lockdown Dads.
Yes. So, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Flipping hope for a happy new year.